Go home. You're just a high school graduate, they told her. Clutching the proposal she worked so hard on, she broke down crying right there. She had gone to the main office but returned in just 30 minutes. Confessing the terrible treatment she received from the planning department, seeing her efforts and struggles up close as a colleague. I couldn't contain my anger and pulled out my phone to shout at the person on the other end. I'll fire everyone. I'm heading to the main office right now, and you better be there too. My loud voice made my colleagues turn and look at me, eyes wide with surprise. She also stopped crying, her mouth agape, staring at me in shock. I approached her and said gently, "It's okay now. Don't worry. Everything will be all right." Then, I hurried to the main office, met up with the person I called, and headed to the conference room. My name is Steve Taylor. I've been working at a branch of Hayes Corporation, a major candy manufacturer, for about 3 months. At 64, I was transferred from the main office to the branch, and the other employees seemed to think I was demoted. I knew they whispered about me behind my back, but since no one was outright harassing me, I didn't mind. However, because of those rumors, my colleagues kept their distance, making communication difficult, which was unfortunate. However, while everyone else kept their distance, there was one employee who spoke to me warmly. Her name is Patricia Davis, and she works in accounting. "Good morning, Steve. It's a bit warm today, isn't it?" "Good morning, Patricia. It's already October, but it feels like summer's back." Patricia joined the company as a contract employee right after high school, and this is her 4th year. Since I arrived at this branch, she has been friendly and often checks on me. We even have lunch together now, enjoying light-hearted conversations. Patricia is always cheerful, but she has a painful past, having lost her parents in a car accident. One day during lunch, she told me her story, saying, "Everyone knows about it." According to her, her parents died in a car accident when she was in middle school, and she grew up in an orphanage. Hayes Corporation regularly donated sweets to the orphanage, and she eagerly looked forward to enjoying them. The people at the orphanage were kind, but I still felt down sometimes. But when I had Hayes sweets, I strangely felt better. Patricia studied bookkeeping at a commercial high school and joined Hayes in accounting, her dream job. Her eyes sparkled when she talked about Hayes sweets, showing how much she loved the company. One day, during our usual break time chat, she started sharing her ideas for new sweets she wished Hayes could produce. It was such an innovative idea that I couldn't help but express my surprise. "That's a great idea, Patricia. You have such a rich imagination. Your work in accounting is fantastic, but I think you'd be great in planning too." Patricia's face lit up with joy, and she hesitated before speaking. "Actually, I've always wanted to work in planning." "That's wonderful. Have you considered talking about a department transfer?" "Oh no, someone like me." Patricia quickly waved her hands in front of her face. "I've never done any planning before. Besides, I only graduated high school." "Your education doesn't matter," I said firmly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "What matters is your passion for Hayes sweets and your ability to come up with ideas that delight our customers. You have both, don't you?" "Do you really think so?" "Absolutely. How about submitting your sweets idea to the next company contest?" "The company contest?" Patricia's eyes widened in surprise, and she raised her voice in astonishment. She seemed quite surprised by my suggestion. "You know the company holds an internal contest once a year, right? Anyone can participate, regardless of their employment status. If you really want to get into planning, you should definitely give it a try." I could see Patricia's heart wavering as I passionately encouraged her to enter the contest. "Even if it doesn't work out, it won't affect your current situation. I think it would be a great experience for you." After a moment of hesitation, she lifted her head with determination. "You're right. I have to try first, or nothing will happen, Steve. I've decided. I'm going to submit my idea to the next company contest. That's the spirit. If you have any questions, I'll help you out. Just ask me anything. Yes, thank you so much. I watched Patricia's enthusiastic response with a smile. With her drive and talent, I was sure she would achieve great results in the contest. After that, I taught Patricia how to write a proposal and helped her prepare for the company contest. Despite preparing for the contest, Patricia didn't neglect her regular accounting duties and completed her proposal. She not only had passion and talent, but was also a hard worker. Finally, Patricia's proposal was finished. Thanks to you, Steve. I managed to put it together. Thank you so much. I only taught you how to write it. The rest is all thanks to your hard work, Patricia. Balancing that with your accounting work must have been tough. You did great. Yes. She hugged the proposal to her chest, nearly in tears, quickly wiping her eyes. Seeing her like that made me feel a warm sensation in my chest. Well, I'll go submit the proposal now. As I watched her enthusiastically dash out of the room, I felt a sense of accomplishment as if it were my own. A month later, she received an email from the main office. The email informed her that her proposal had passed the first round of screening. Steve, we did it. I passed the first round. That's great, Patricia. I knew your idea would succeed. We celebrated by holding hands, and I blushed at my uncharacteristic excitement. Patricia, not noticing, continued excitedly. Next is the presentation at the main office. I'm so nervous since it's my first presentation. How about we practice the presentation together until the big day? Really? Of course. Now that we've come this far, we have to make sure your idea gets approved. I'm already dying to try those sweets. She laughed at my joking remark and then smiled. After that, we spent our time after work practicing for the presentation at the main office. Patricia struggled at first with the unfamiliar task, but with practice, she improved significantly. At this rate, she'll do great during the actual presentation. Finally, the day of the final round of the company contest arrived. Patricia planned to work at the branch until noon and then head to the main office. I'm sorry to leave work unfinished, everyone. She said goodbye politely after getting ready to go, and her colleagues shook their heads with smiles. It's fine. You always work hard, Patricia. Don't worry about us. Good luck with the contest. We're rooting for you. Patricia, who was always kind to everyone, was well liked by her colleagues. Not a single complaint was heard as they saw her off. I said nothing, only giving her a firm nod when she glanced my way. Even that seemed to convey my feelings, as she nodded back and headed to the main office with confident steps. I cheered her on in my heart and returned to my usual work with my colleagues. A while later, I heard the door open and looked up curiously. No one was supposed to leave their seat, and we weren't expecting any visitors. Who could it be? To my surprise, it was Patricia, who should have been at the main office. Only 30 minutes had passed since she left. There was no way the final screening meeting could be over so quickly. I worried she might have forgotten something important. Patricia, what's wrong? Did you forget something? I rushed over to her, and she shook her head vigorously, looking down. I noticed tears in her eyes. For someone as cheerful as Patricia to look like this, something serious must have happened. She was on the verge of tears, trying hard to speak. I was taken to the contest venue and waited with the other participants for the planning team to arrive. As Patricia explained, my other colleagues, who usually kept their distance from me, approached, concerned about her. Patricia looked up with a tearful face, full of anxiety. Then someone from the planning team came in, looked at my materials and said, "Why is a high school graduate here?" What? The cruel words made my blood boil. The contest required participants to include not just their names, but also their current department and a brief history. Someone must have seen her background and made that awful comment. They said, This isn't a place for a high school graduate like you. You're in the way, so go home." She couldn't say any more. Patricia crouched down and finally burst into tears. I was so angry I couldn't speak, clenching my fists. My colleagues were also furious about the heartless remarks made towards Patricia. How could they say such a thing? Turning her away without even looking at the content of her proposal. Education shouldn't matter. I understood their feelings well, but getting angry here wouldn't change anything. I left her with my colleagues and called the planning department from the branch office phone. "Planning department. Sorry to bother you, but could you connect me to the person in charge of today's contest?" The person on the other end seemed annoyed that I demanded the person in charge without introducing myself. "We're in a meeting right now," they said curtly and hung up without waiting for my response. Frustrated, I took out my phone and called a certain person. After a few rings, they answered, and I yelled without any detailed explanation. "I'll fire everyone. I'm heading to the main office right now. You better be there." My loud voice made my colleagues look at me in surprise. Patricia also stopped crying, her mouth agape, staring at me. I approached her and spoke gently. "Patricia, it's okay now. Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Sorry, everyone. I need to step out for a bit." My colleagues, still shocked, nodded stiffly like puppets, not saying a word. Patricia watched me leave with a stunned expression as I walked out angrily. I then hurried to the main office, met up with the person I called, and headed to the conference room. Without knocking, I barged in, causing the planning department employees to look at me suspiciously. Seeing an unfamiliar old man, one employee spoke up arrogantly. "What do you think you're doing? We're in the middle of an important meeting. Get out if you have no business here." As other employees were about to chime in, a man in his 40s hurried in behind me, looking flustered. When the employees saw him, they exclaimed, "President?" Yes, he was the president of Hayes and the person I had called earlier. "Chairman, what on earth is going on? You burst into the meeting room as soon as you arrived at the main office." "Chairman." The employees gasped in shock again at his words. They stared at me in disbelief. I took off my disguise, wig and glasses, revealing myself as the chairman of Hayes Corporation. Seeing my true identity, the employees let out stifled gasps. I scanned the room and clicked my tongue in irritation. "What on earth is going on here? Why are you all here?" The employees shrank back as I yelled at them, looking as fierce as a demon. However, they clearly had no idea why they were being scolded. I glared at them with a steely gaze and ordered them to bring all the contest proposals. One employee stood up and obsequiously brought over a stack of proposals. His name tag read Charles Moore. "Here you go, Chairman." I practically snatched the proposals from Charles and started flipping through them. No matter how much I searched, I couldn't find Patricia's proposal. "Is this really all of them?" "Yes, every single one is a great proposal worthy of Hayes," he answered confidently, and I shot him a cold look. Just then, the conference room door was knocked, and a female employee entered, pushing a cart with tea. But the tea wasn't the only thing she brought. She quietly handed me a stack of tattered papers she had with her. I didn't miss the momentary look of panic on the faces of the employees. "And what is this?" "I found it in the trash. I thought it was one of the proposals for today's contest, so I brought it here." The proposal had Patricia's name on it. The fact that her hard work had been thrown away only fueled my anger. Unaware of my growing rage, Charles continued with a sycophantic expression. "Oh, that one must have slipped through the cracks. It's like a grade school essay, and we were puzzled as to why it even made it this far." Charles sneered as he spoke, and the surrounding employees chuckled in agreement. "Oh, a grade school essay, you say?" "Yes, it's a proposal written by a high school graduate. We thought it was a waste of time to review it. It would only disrupt the meeting, so we quickly disposed of it." Thinking my silence was agreement, Charles looked even more smug and continued to insult Patricia. People with low education levels clearly show their limits. To submit such a proposal without shame, high school graduates should stick to jobs that suit their capabilities. I see, so that's your perspective, but I disagree. Well, I have reviewed this proposal myself. When I quietly interjected, his chatter stopped abruptly. I found it to be a very original and excellent proposal. Unfortunately, it seems your opinion differs from mine. At my words, Charles's face turned pale. Yes, you're right. I thought so too. Despite all the insults he had thrown at Patricia, he quickly changed his tune as soon as I praised the proposal. He started to grovel, desperately trying to explain himself. Well, it's impressive that you recognize the value of this proposal, Chairman. I had my eye on it too, but others said it was a waste of time to consider a high school graduate's proposal, so. As Charles tried to shift the blame, other employees jumped up from their chairs in anger. What are you talking about? You were the one who said we shouldn't bother with a high school graduate's proposal. Don't blame us. Whoa, you all said the same thing as me. Don't pin this on me alone. I covered my face with my hand at the sudden and ugly argument that broke out. When did the quality of Hayes employees fall so low? Silence. Fed up with their endless bickering, I shouted at them. I then glared at the employees and spoke with a commanding tone. If being a high school graduate is unacceptable, what about me, who only graduated from middle school? Does that disqualify me as chairman? I had started working at a small candy shop right out of middle school and had grown Hayes into a major candy manufacturer from there. This was a well-known story in the industry, and it was impossible for Hayes employees not to know it. The employees in the planning department seemed to finally remember this fact, looking startled and then falling into an awkward silence. I glanced at the president, who had been nervously fidgeting in the back, and let out a deep sigh. I trusted you to handle things. The president, unable to respond, just hung his head in shame. Since becoming chairman and stepping down from active duty, I had focused on charitable work. I entrusted the company to the president and tried not to interfere too much. But now, this was the result. I heard some bad rumors about Hayes at the orphanages I run. Do you have any idea how shocked I was to hear them? Since getting involved in charity work, I had bought several orphanages and became their director. One of these orphanages was where Patricia spent her school years. Though I had never met Patricia, I knew from the staff that a girl from the orphanage was working at Hayes. One day, during my usual visit to the orphanage, I heard a surprising story from the staff. Recently, Patricia, who joined Hayes, came to me with a problem. She said her contract might not be renewed before her 5th year. Did she make any mistakes at work? When a contract employee's employment is terminated, it's usually because they've made a mistake that caused a loss to the company. I thought this might be one of those cases, but the female staff member shook her head. No, Patricia hasn't made any major mistakes. And it seems she's not the only one. Other employees are also having their contracts terminated before reaching 5 years. What? I raised my voice in surprise. At Hayes, there's a system where non-regular employees can become regular employees after 5 years if they wish. However, recently, it seems that non-regular employees are having their contracts terminated just before reaching the 5-year mark. I couldn't believe it, but the orphanage staff had no reason to lie. Moreover, lying wouldn't benefit them in any way. This meant that something bad was likely happening at Hayes, giving rise to these rumors. Had Hayes, the company I nurtured, changed while I was away? If so, I couldn't let this continue. To understand the company's internal affairs, I decided to visit incognito. I chose the branch where Patricia worked, thinking it was fate. After briefly explaining how I came to be here, I glanced at the president and employees, including Charles, who had turned pale. I didn't want to believe that Hayes had become such a company. But it seems the terrible treatment of non-regular employees is true. No, Chairman, we were just trying to uphold Hayes' dignity. Charles, sweating profusely, desperately clung to his argument. Despite the situation, he still hadn't given up, showing some tenacity. However, employees who look down on others solely based on their educational background have no place in our company. And what do you mean by dignity? Well, by ensuring that key positions are filled by graduates from top universities. You still don't get it. The ones tarnishing our company's dignity are none other than you. My shouting made Charles fall to the floor in shock. If we don't need to listen to those who degrade Hayes' reputation, then there's no need to keep you here. Leave immediately. No way. Realizing they were effectively being fired, Charles and the other planning department employees collapsed in despair. After that, I decided to clean out the company's corruption by hiring external investigators to look into the president and the planning department employees. The investigation revealed that, aside from Patricia, several other employees had been bullied and harassed for their educational background or employment status. How shameful! It seems that the woman who picked Patricia's proposal out of the trash was also a victim. She, like Patricia, was a high school graduate and was given only menial tasks, denied any real project work because of her education. That day, she sympathized with Patricia, who was being mocked for her background, and brought the discarded proposal with a desire to help. From now on, she will be able to work according to her abilities without being discriminated against because of her education. The main perpetrators, Charles and the employees in key positions, were all dismissed for disciplinary reasons. Other employees who, while not as active, participated in the harassment were reassigned to regional branches. These branches have a higher number of non-regular employees compared to the main office. It will be good for them to understand the hard work of these employees firsthand. The investigation also revealed that the head of HR had been terminating the contracts of non-regular employees just before they reached 5 years. He disliked the increase in labor costs that would come with non-regular employees becoming regular employees and terminated their contracts before they could apply for regular status. What a foolish move! Considering that having talented individuals become full-time employees would only benefit the company in the long run. Moreover, the head of HR was also involved in nepotism. Such a person could not continue to hold an important position, so he was demoted. After all the employees' punishments were decided, the last to be dealt with was the president. I'm also disappointed that it has come to this. No, it's my responsibility for not properly supervising the employees. I am truly sorry. The president, having neglected the company's issues for years, was held accountable and stepped down. Having witnessed everything in the conference room, he did not dispute the decision. He was a genuinely good man and had no direct involvement in the scandal. If he had known about the harassment of non-regular employees, he would have addressed it long before I had to step in. However, he was so overwhelmed with his duties as president that he couldn't keep an eye on internal affairs. As president, he couldn't excuse himself by saying he was unaware of the employees' misconduct. He understood this well. Without making any excuses, he said bye to me and quietly left the company. However, I also bore some responsibility for not paying attention to the company's internal matters. Until a new president was appointed, I decided to return as interim president to thoroughly reform the company. I couldn't allow any more employees to suffer in the company I love. I aim to create a fair, transparent company where talents like Patricia could thrive. The internal contest was restarted, and participants were asked to resubmit their proposals anonymously. The requirement to include personal backgrounds and departments was abolished, ensuring a fair review process this time. President, this is the proposal that was ultimately selected in the contest. Please take a look. The employee handed over the proposal, which of course had no name on it. However, after flipping through just a few pages, I knew exactly whose it was. There was no mistaking it. It was Patricia's proposal. After thoroughly reading the proposal, I handed it back to the employee and said with a smile, "This is an excellent proposal. I'm looking forward to seeing this candy become a product." In between my duties as president, I visited the children at the orphanage. "We're making a new candy at Hayes. When it's ready, I'll bring some here." "Yay, hooray." "What kind of candy is it?" "That's a secret. You'll have to wait and see." Watching the children laugh and look forward to it brought a smile to my face as well. Imagining these kids enjoying the candy Patricia had created filled me with warmth and joy.